Today, I'd like to talk about populism and its relationship to art. And, and especially since we're in election season and we're about to elect a president, and one of the candidates styles himself and describes himself as a populist. Well, what is a populist? Well, it's good to think of populism sort of in its relationship to elitism. Okay, and so, elitists feel that they are the smartest, they are the most virtuous, they deserve to be the elite members of society, the richest and the most powerful. And, the peasants or the commoners are the least powerful. And so, here we have this depiction sort of the structure of society with the king at the top and with the commoners and the peasants down below and the rich people above them and then military and clergy. And, so this is kind of the way Victorian society was depicted. In our society today, we have the elite. What could be more elite than the King of England? And look at this picture of him. Everything about him is meant to try to separate him from the average person. All of his crown, his dress, the things that he's holding, as if those things are really important. We Americans sort of laugh at that, but the English really take it seriously. The elitists really do feel that they are deserving of their elite position in society. They feel that they're more intelligent, more fitting of the honor and the power which they have and which they wield. And, and opposed to the elite are the commoners, the everyday person, the peasants. Populists feel that it's the peasants who are actually the good ones. They're the hard ones. They're the ones who are actually doing the hard work. They're the ones who are actually creating the society, sustaining the society, not the elite. And so here we see a picture of the commoners, sort of the peasants, the people, so to speak. So in this election that we're having right now, we have Donald Trump. And he styles himself as, a member of the general public, a commoner. So here he is in McDonald's waving from the takeout window, and he's in a McDonald's apron. But he's not really a commoner. I mean, he was born into a wealthy family. He's very wealthy himself, and he builds these skyscrapers. Now, yes, he does like to associate with the construction workers, with the everyday people. And so, he has gained this reputation as being a populist, as someone who values the populace and, who's advocating for the forgotten men and women of America, who he feels has been neglected by the elite, who he feels are corrupt and self-serving. As opposed to Donald Trump, we have a member of the elite, an elitist, who really does think that she's smarter than everybody else. This is Hillary Clinton. And she has described Donald Trump's supporters as sort of half of them being a basket of deplorables, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic. And she feels that she's better, smarter, more worthy to have power and wealth than the average person. And so that's the sort of the dichotomy of the populists versus the elitists. And, the populists feel that, no, it's the average person who is the virtuous one, where the goodness resides. They're the hard workers, not the elite who are, very self-indulgent and self-serving and corrupt. In art, we have also depictions of this sort of structure of society. And here's a painting of the Rest on the Flight into Egypt by Joachim Potenier. And this is a whole world painting. Okay, you have the sky, the mountains, the trees, all the way down to the little blades of grass and the leaves. In this painting, we also have a depiction of the sort of the structure of society. What is more elite in our society than God and God's mother? And so there we have Jesus and Mary in the foreground. They are the brightest. They are central to the composition. Mary's feeding the baby Jesus as they're fleeing into Egypt to escape King Herod. And in the distance, we have the commoners, the peasants. They're obviously not as important because they're smaller and they're less central to the composition. And, so there, there's Mary and Jesus. They're very prominent. They're very large and bright. And then here we have the commoners, the farmers. And, they're just kind of off in the distance, and they're small. And they're obviously not very important to this, or not as important as God and his mother, who are the most prominent figures in this composition. And here we can see the whole world, here again with Mary and Jesus being very prominent and central, and the peasants, the farmers, the everyday people, they're just kind of shoved off to the side because they're really not that important, or maybe they're less important. There are other myths, there are other stories, other narratives that capture the nature of our society. One of those narratives comes from ancient Greece, and it's the myth of Icarus. And Icarus was the son of Daedalus. Daedalus was the craftsman of the gods. He was sort of like a half-god himself. He fashioned some wings. He wanted to fly, so he made some wings for himself out of feathers and wax, and he made a pair for his son Icarus. And they put these wings on, and they started to fly around. Okay, they weren't working. They weren't plowing fields or doing humble craftsman shoeing horses, humble craftsmanship activities. No, they're flying around. Well, Icarus flew too close to the sun, and the sun melted the wax in his wings. The feathers fell out, and he fell and died. And so it's sort of symbolic of, how maybe frivolous sometimes the elite can be. But here in this painting from 1630 in Northern Europe, we have Icarus. And here he is, he's very prominent. He's central to the composition. He's very large, very bright in the composition. And we have, again, the depiction of the whole world. We see the ocean, the mountains, the clouds. And we also have some peasants. And they're down there in the lower left, a pair of fishermen. And they're small, and they're not nearly as central to the composition. So here, this is sort of a structuring of society, letting us know that these mythical god-like figures, they are the prominent ones. They are the important ones. And, the peasants, the fishermen, the farmers, they're not nearly as important. Here's another painting. This is from the Victorian era of, the lamentation over the dead Icarus. He's fallen, he's dead, but he's, obviously very, very important to this artist from late 19th century England, 1890. This is Herbert Draper's painting of the Lamentation over Icarus. Notice, yes, he's dead, he's lying there, but he's surrounded by these gorgeous young women, these water nymphs, and oh, are they beautiful? And they're naked, and they're actually what we look at. They're very bright and light. And, so this artist is letting us know that, this Icarus is very, very important. He's sort of the elite of our cultural life. Well, here's another painting of the fall of Icarus. And this one is by Peter Bruegel from 1520. Now, it may not be an original, it may be an early work. There's some discussion as to its originality. Here we have the fall of Icarus. Well, we look at this painting, it's a whole world painting again, and there's the sky and the mountains and, the trees all the way up to the grass and the leaves in the foreground. But where's Icarus? This very, very important, this mythically important event from human history, one of the most important events in human history. And we look, oh, there he is in the lower right. Okay, there, his legs are sticking out of the water. Okay, and there he is, and there are some feathers floating behind him, but, there's a shepherd up there in the upper left of this image, and there's a fisherman down there in the lower right, and they're not paying any attention. They really don't think this is very important, and, but there's Icarus, fell into the water, he's drowning, this mythically important figure, this sort of member of the elite, a demigod. But here's the peasants, and they're doing their jobs. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're working hard, plowing the fields, tending their sheep. They're really not paying attention to what this elite member of historically important society, is what's happening to him. And so here's this painting Bruegel is sort of expressing his populist sympathies by placing this sort of historically important event in what he feels is its proper perspective, which is not very important. Nobody's paying attention. They're all just doing their jobs. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're working hard. They're the virtuous ones, and he's out there flying around, getting into trouble. So it is kind of a humorous painting, a humorous depiction. It's an inversion. It's been called a mannerist inversion of, what we would normally consider to be the hierarchy of importance of people in society. Well, here, this is one of my paintings, a recent painting, and it also is an inversion because I sort of have populist sympathies myself. I grew up in the suburbs. So I paint suburban life. And, here we have, sort of average houses and a church, but it's a whole world painting. There's the sky and the mountains and the ocean and, coming all the way to the grass in the foreground. It's called a suburban landscape with the artist Jackson Pollock painting. This image of Jackson Pollock, or the historical event of Jackson Pollock painting, is considered to be very important. He's in the Museum of Modern Art, and his paintings are considered to be historically and culturally very, very important to the cultural elite, to the intellectual elite, to the wealthy and the powerful members of our society. Well, Jackson Pollock is a very, very important person. And his paintings was considered to be, a very historically important event. Did anybody pay attention when it was happening? Okay. There he is. There he's off in the distance. Okay, if we go back, we can see, in this painting, there are lots of people. There's someone running, there's someone standing in a doorway, there's a woman in the lower right who's, naked, looking at herself in a mirror, a dog over there on the left, and as we go down the road, we can see someone sitting in their front window, and then finally we get to Jackson Pollock off there in the garage. And we look into the garage, and there he is painting his picture, but he certainly isn't being paid attention to by anyone else. And that's how he would paint. He'd spread his canvas on the floor, and he would drip paint. That's how he's created his action paintings, the famous abstract expressionist paintings for which he is known. But there he is. In fact, there's another person in the house with him, and they're watching TV. So, this is sort of an inversion of what the cultural elite would consider to be in a hierarchy of importance. And this painting of Pollock is based on this historically important photograph that appeared in Life magazine of Jackson Pollock painting. And, it appears in all the art history books. And, it's considered to be this great moment. Oh, if only we could have been there. But nobody was, because they really didn't think it was that important at the time. And here I am, but, I have to admit, I'm a member of the art world, and so, yes, there's Jackson Pollock is a huge figure in the art world, and here I am standing in front of one of his paintings in the Museum of Modern Art, and, that painting behind me is probably worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The Museum of Modern Art is supported by billionaires, the elite, the cultural elite, the rich and the powerful people who think that they are deserving of their wealth and their power. And us commoners, we're really not that important, and we shouldn't have the wealth and the power which they have. And, here I am standing in front of this Jackson Pollock painting, and, it is an impressive painting. And that museum is filled with paintings that are worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that were donated by the very wealthy and the powerful. And here's my picture, where I'm sort of, poking fun at that idea of sort of what is elite and what is important. Because in my life, it's the everyday people that are important. They're the virtuous ones. They're the hardworking ones. And, the elite seems sort of frivolous and decadent and, and kind of corrupt and self-serving compared to the average everyday person. But that's a populist point of view. The elitists don't feel that way. They feel that they deserve the wealth and the power that they have, and that they are the most deserving, and that's why they have the wealth and the power that they do have. But here's my painting. This is my sort of inversion of, what I would consider, what an elitist would consider to be this is the hierarchy of events, and where Pollock should be the most prominent figure in the composition, but not in my world. And so how did I do this painting? Well, it started off with a pen and ink drawing in my sketchbook, to kind of figure out what I was going to do and, what the major elements would be. And then as I continued, I got more specific with the drawing, more detailed and more finished. And then finally, when I had figured out what I really wanted to do, then I drew a pencil grid over the painting or over the drawing so that I could blow it up to a 42 by 26 inch canvas. So here's the painting as it got started. I took the canvas, I did a charcoal drawing of the ink sketch, and then I went over that with ink, and then I scrubbed a reddish brown tone, a neutral tone, over the whole canvas so that I wouldn't be painting on white. I don't like to paint on white because all of the colors end up being darker than the canvas. And so here I've got a sort of a neutral, warm tone, so that darks will be darker, lights will be lighter, cool colors will be cooler, and warm colors will be warmer. And so this is the way I like to begin. And then the next step is to just block in the dark areas, the dark shapes, the shadowy shapes. That gives me an idea of the composition. And I can compare this to the pen and ink drawing to see, if I'm sort of getting close to what I intended. And then I block in the lights. And so once I have the lights and the darks in place, then I have a better idea of what I'm trying to do. And I can make changes still. You can see that tree at the bottom of the picture, and it's really kind of bothering me. I've got to do something about that tree. I block in the colors, the major colors, and so I have a better idea of what the lights and darks and the colors are going to be like. And then here's the finished painting. You can see I got rid of that tree. In this painting, there's your everyday people, the suburban landscape with normal suburban homes and normal suburban people. The runner and the woman watching him out her door, and then there's that naked woman in the window looking at herself in the mirror, the dog. We go up the road, there's the road sign that we see around town. We see all kinds of signs around town. There's someone in the window. And then finally, off in the distance, we see that open garage. And there's Jackson Pollock painting. And, that's the title of the painting, Suburban Landscape with Jackson Pollock Painting. So I'm sort of inverting what the elite would consider to be sort of the prominence of people in this scene. Because in my world, it's the everyday people, the virtuous ones, the hardworking ones. So if you wouldn't mind, subscribe to these videos, and like this and share it with a friend and leave a comment, because I read all the comments, and the comments really do help me to make more of these videos in the future. But thank you for watching.
If you like this video, be sure to subscribe, like, and share.
And don't forget to ring the bell.